have with us Congressman Louie Gohmert from Texas 1. Anyone who focuses on these issues knows exactly where he stands. So as they say, I don't know that he needs much more of an intro than that. Congressman?
Thank you. Well, it is a pleasure to be here, and I love, can I call you Mr. Vice President? I sure
By all
like
means.
that. I love that idea.
I may be better than some of the others.
Well, we won't talk about present situation, but anyway, it's great to be here. It's great to be invited to be part of the London Center for Policy Research. Folks there, I've seen, they get it. They understand how at risk things are. But it is important, I think, to understand the relativity of things. This is not just an issue of radical Islam, although that is an issue. Carlos the Jackal, y'all heard of Carlos the Jackal. You know, he had commented some time back that the best way to bring down the United States is for socialists and, you know, Islamists to join forces, that it was not possible with either one, but together they could bring us down. And I was hearing a while ago that there may be a day of rage in America in the next few. Intellect question. I know how well I did on national standardized testing. I'm okay. And I know just in the last couple of weeks, in trying to engage in debate on the issue of what killed these innocent folks at the Orlando nightclub, and in the wee hours I pointed out that it was radical Islam that killed these innocent victims, and immediately Congressman from New Jersey yelled, "Then you're a racist." Now that confused me because I didn't realize Islam was a race. I thought there were people from many different races that believed in Islam. So that was intriguing. I said, he said he was pledging allegiance to the Islamic State. And I was told, so you're a racist. Anyway, it's hard to debate people that are coming from that position. And I said, he said himself, he pledged allegiance, who's got her own legal issues at this time, but she got in my face and said, that's a lie because it happened in my district. And I said, no, these words came from his own mouth. We have a recording of him pledging allegiance to the Islamic State. And her debate point that's hard to argue with was, that's a lie because it happened in my district. And I said, your Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, you know, I know she thinks she's a great Attorney General. She said he pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. And the response was cleverly, that's a lie because it happened in my district. Sometimes it's hard to really engage in meaningful debate, but I want to take you back to December 22nd, a story published in Egypt's Rose El Yusuf magazine, approved by the Muslim Brotherhood. It was written while Morsi was president, the Muslim Brotherhood president of Egypt. And I've quoted from this story and been called an Islamophobe because I quoted from the story that the Muslim Brotherhood was proud of. And in this story, they proudly named 6 people who turned the White House, quote, from a position hostile to Islamic groups and organizations in the world to the largest and most important supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood, unquote. The 6 people named were Arif Ali Khan, Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security for Policy Development, and again, this story was December 22nd of 2012. Mohammed Al-Abieri, member of the Homeland Security Advisory Council, also from Texas. of course, the Muslim Brotherhood calls their party in Egypt the Freedom and Justice Party. And amazingly, he started a charity, lost their 501c3 status when they wouldn't properly report, but he calls it the Freedom and Justice Charity. So anyway, a foundation rather. And I kept warning, look, the guy was a featured speaker at the Ayatollah Khomeini Man of Vision for the 20th century. He was a featured speaker. We don't know what was said there, but he was listed as a featured speaker to pay tribute. And I kept pointing out he was very defensive of the Holy Land Foundation trial, that it was wrong, even after they were convicted, clearly proving that they supported terrorism. He defended them repeatedly. And finally, after a couple of years of warning, actually 3 years of warning about his ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and support for people who had ties to radical Islam, he tweeted out after an American was killed on video that the international caliphate was inevitable, so we just need to warm up to the idea. At that, finally, Homeland Security said, well, his term is up as our top advisor, so we'll go ahead and let his term expire. Anyway, Rashad Hussain, the U.S. Special Envoy to the Organization of the Islamic Conference, Salam al-Mariyati, the co-founder of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, Imam Mohammed Majid, president of Islamic Society of North America. He was at that time. He also very close confidant of the president. The president consulted him. Apparently, he helped him with the president's speech in May of 2011, where the president was trying to upstage Prime Minister Netanyahu. He was on his way to address AIPAC here and also to speak to a joint session in Congress. The president went to the State Department. Mohammed Majid was there in the inner sanctum of the State Department. He was there and, taking credit for assisting the president. And then we have Ibu Patel, a member of the President Obama's Advisory Council on Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships. Anyway, it's just rather amazing. Also wanted you to note that as of December 7, 2011, the Holy Land Foundation convictions were affirmed on all counts, and the three-judge panel unanimous 170-page opinion, despite what Mr. Elibieri said about it being gross injustice, the panel unanimously said that Hamas was created by Muslim Brotherhood operatives in 1987 as the Brotherhood's, quote, Palestinian branch, unquote. Thereafter, quote, the Muslim Brotherhood directed its worldwide chapters to establish so-called Palestinian committees to support Hamas from abroad. In the U.S., the Palestine Committee was led by Musa Abu Marzouk, who for a time in the early 90s actually ran Hamas from his home in Virginia. The Palestine Committee created not only the Holy Land Foundation, but a number of other Islamic entities in the U.S. The leaders of one of those entities, the Islamic Association of Palestine, subsequently created CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations, which was cited as an unindicted co-conspirator in the case and is one of the most prominent to be heard around the country. Then I wanted to quickly mention a couple of quotes from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's own pleading. He wrote it himself. He had books helping him do the translation at Gitmo, and I'm sure he's up next to be released from Gitmo. But he said, these are his own words. He's a smart guy. He may be crazy, but he's a very smart guy. He hates Americans. He said, in God's book, he ordered us to fight you everywhere we find you. Even if we were inside the holiest of all holy cities, the mosque in Mecca and the holy city of Mecca, and even during sacred months. In God's book, verse 9, Al-Taba, then fight and slay the pagans wherever you find them, and seize them and besiege them and lie in wait for them in each and every ambush. He goes through in very legalistic form, cites the premise for killing Americans, and then gives a quote from the Quran. He's a very intelligent, well-educated on the Quran. He says, God has demonstrated to us your mental and your defeated fighting moral status. Our religion is a religion of fear and terror to the enemies of God, the Jews, the Christians, and pagans. With God's willing, we are terrorists to the bone. So many thanks to God. And then he quotes from an Arab poet, we will terrorize you as long as we live with swords, fire, and airplanes. He forgot to mention guns, which is why we've got to outlaw guns, but I'm sure he was thinking guns instead of just saying swords, fire, and airplanes. Anyway, he says, we will make all our materials available to defend and deter and egress you and the filthy Jews from our country. God has ordered us to spend for jihad in this cause. Then finally he says, we fight you and destroy you and terrorize you. The jihad is God's cause and a great duty in our religion. We have news for you. The news is you will be greatly defeated in Afghanistan and Iraq, and that America will fall politically, militarily, and economically. Your end is very near, and your fall will be just as the fall of the towers on the blessed 9/11 day. We will raise from the ruins, God willing. We will leave this imprisonment with our noses raised high in dignity as the lion emerges from his den. We shall pass over the blades of the sword into the gates of heaven. So we ask God to accept our contributions to the great attack on America, and to place our 19 martyred brethren among the highest peaks in paradise. These are not friends of the United States. And the sooner people in America understand just the depth of the hatred here, then the sooner we will be able to defeat them. They have a strong foothold in the United States because of the goodness of the American hearts, not wanting to think people could be filled with this much hate. But it's there, it's a reality, and we have got to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you.